أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا ولما رأى المؤمنون الأحزاب قالوا هذا ما وعدنا الله ورسوله وصدق الله ورسوله وما زادهم إلا إيمانا وتسليما. من المؤمنين رجال من المؤمنين رجال من المؤمنين رجال من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, before we proceed to the lecture, for all the marhum mu'minin and mu'minat, muslimin and muslimat, let us recite one Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah, we are honored to be joined for this program with our respected scholar, Sheikh Mahdi, who needs no introduction in our community. It is our honor and privilege to have him with us tonight to celebrate the birth of Bibi Zainab, salamullah alayha. So inshallah, without any further ado, let us welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. Dearest brothers and sisters, it's a pleasure to be here, and I extend my congratulations on this program to commemorate the birth anniversary of Lady Zainab salamullah alayha. What I wanted to do tonight is to kind of focus on one of the facets of the personality of Lady Zainab, and there's a lot of different things that we can focus on, and despite the fact that there is not much historical record of the life of Lady Zainab salamullah alayha, there's still I think a wealth of lessons that are available to us, even though the actual historical information may not be that much, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot to learn. Now, of course, we know the records that we do have, speaking of Lady Zainab salamullah alayha, speak of a number of different names or titles that she has been awarded. Some of them have to do with of course, the event of Karbala, speaking to the tragedy, speaking to the patience and the perseverance, the strength of her character. These are very important dynamics of her personality, and not that I don't want to focus on them, but I want to kind of draw attention to one of the other dimensions of her personality, and I think one that hopefully we can draw a lesson for ourselves and for our children, is that if you've noticed in some of the titles that she has, there's an emphasis on her learned nature. So one of the common titles that she has is Aqilatu Bani Hashim. So she is a woman of the Banu Hashim clan that is extremely learned, who is extremely intelligent, if we want to call it that. There is a high utilization and manifestation of aql in her existence. We also have reports of imams referring to her as alima ghayra muallima, that she is a learned individual. You want to call her a scholar even, that has not undergone a traditional training, that has not been taught formally. So she's alima ghayra muallama. She knows things. She has received that knowledge, but that knowledge is not through the traditional forms of learning. And in other cases, we have fahima or fahima ghayra mufahama, that she is a she is a knowledgeable, a learned, informed individual without a medium of traditional medium of teaching and of learning. So I want to focus on that part of it and put that into conversation with a hadith that we have reported from the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. But before we do that, we know from the relatively little that we know of her life, we know that she was a person who was engaged in the intellectual and scholarly activities of her day. I just kind of open this up as a sidebar, and I don't want to spend time here, but it's just something worthy of note, that a lot of times we do have available in our tradition, in the history, at least examples of women playing prominent roles, prominent social roles, that a lot of times just get obscured. Not enough attention is put there, or a person is not really looking in the right places. And because of that, you have the development of these narratives that people are not given opportunities, or they did not play important roles. And I think to a great extent, a lot of these times, these are not historically accurate statements. A part of it because the history may not just be available to us, it's just not extant, or because they're not given the due attention, even though they are there. So Lady Zainab, salamullah alayha, amongst other women in early Islamic history, they play important roles in scholarly discourse, and they're teachers, they're educators. It's recorded, at least in this case, that when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam shifted the capital of his khilafah, if we want to call it. It's not, I don't know if that's an accurate term for the time, but his rule of the larger Muslim community in its exterior form, he shifted that from Medina to Kufa, and we know the historical reasons behind that. Lady Zainab salamullah alayha is also, she travels obviously with her husband Abdullah bin Ja'far, and in Kufa, they're residing there. It's recorded that she was heavily involved in the education, at least of the women of Kufa. So there were circles of learning that were established there for the women of the city. And there was not only recitation of Quran, but there was teaching of the Quran, there was tafsir of the Quran, and there was also, I'm sure, recording and sharing of narrations, because we know Lady Zainab salamullah alayha to be a muhaddatha. She is a transmitter of hadith, she is a rawi, and she reports narrations from Lady Fatima salamullah alayha, from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam. In some accounts, we have this title of Sirru Abiha, that Zainab salamullah alayha is the secret of her father. So she narrates from a number of people, important figures, obviously, and because of that, she occupies an important place there. Excuse me. So, but what I want to kind of turn our attention to is, if Lady Zainab salamullah alayha is aqila, if she is alima, if she is fahima, what does it mean for us to also aspire towards being knowledgeable people, to be learned people, to be wise people, informed people? There's a narration from the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, in some of our books of hadith, that the Prophet delivered a sermon one day, and it was a very powerful sermon. This is recorded in the actual in the beginning of the narration. So it was a khutbah that was very powerful, and people were affected by this. And in a part of it, he's speaking about kind of the greatest afdalun nas, and he speaks about the most knowledgeable, or the most intelligent, or those who are greatest in the faculty of aql. This is what inna aqal an-nas abdun arafa rabbahu fa'ata'ahu. There are four things that he says. He says those who have the most intense aql in their person is an individual, number one, that is aware or has understanding of his or her Lord and is obedient. So I'll just list them, and then I'll go and add a little commentary one by one. Number two, وَعَرَفَ عَدُوَّهُ فَعَصَاهُ. And they are able to identify and know their enemy, so they oppose them. Number three, وَعَرَفَ دَارَ إِقَامَتِهِ. And they, again, know and understand their place, their abode of residence. They know where they're going to be residing for indefinitely, if you want to call it, or for a long period of time. فَأَصْلَحَهَا. They prepare it. وَعَرَفَ سُرْعَةَ رَحِيلَتِهِ. And they know the speed of their journey. فَتَزَوَّدَ لَهَا. So they prepare for that too. They kind of make provisions for that. So, so this idea of capturing the faculty of aql, again, a lot has been said in the tradition, and I don't want to get into a very complex discussion of precisely what is the aql and what it's not. What I do want to do is, again, expand a little bit on what I think this tradition is telling us, and the four things that are being referred to here. I think a few years ago, I know this is a long time ago and people may not remember, but in one of the talks that I gave, I think in the first visit that I had, I shared a riwayah from Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, that he speaks about 10 characteristics of a person who has completed their aql. And I think there was I'm not sure if there was a recording or not, but in any case, that riwayah is also a very interesting riwayah. It's narrated in Tuhaf al-Uqul of Ibn Shura al-Harrani. He says, Qala alayhi salam, the beginning, at least if you can find, he says, لا يتم عقل امرئ مسلم حتى يكون فيه عشر خصال. A Muslim's aql is imperfect before he or she enjoys these 10 characteristics. So those speak more about behavioral things. This hadith, I think, speaks more about fundamental worldview, things that I want to kind of focus our attention tonight. Okay, so the first one, Abdun arafa rabbahu fa'ata'ahu. All four of these are connected. So a person who knows who their Lord is, their God is. And another way of thinking about that, I think, is to know what their purpose in life is. To know what their purpose in life is, fa'ata'ahu, so they obey it. One way of thinking about God or thinking about Islam or whatever is that thing, that entity, that idea that defines purpose in our lives, that gives meaning to us in life. This search for meaning is such a powerful one and such an influential one. And I think it impacts everything that we do in life, from small things to big things, from those small decisions to large decisions that we make, are all more or less impacted to this idea of what our meaning in life is and what our purpose in life is. The person who has the most intense aql is one who has identified that purpose, who that meaning in life is clear to them. So they obey it, so they pursue it. The logic here is very airtight. If we know what we want and we know why we want it and why that's good for us, then what reason do we have to resist it or fight it? Yes, we have shortcomings, we have slips, we have lapses in judgment. Those are okay. Those are minor things, right? And those minor things are obviously these are accounted for in the attitude that Allah has towards the believing people. You make small mistakes, right? The ithm, if you want to call it sin, you want to call it whatever you want, a lapse of judgment, a time of being neglectful, whatever you want to call it, those are forgiven. It's the larger kind of mistakes that we make that are fundamental mistakes in identifying what a person's meaning and purpose is, that the Quran at least presents as problematic. So for a person who wants to take example from Lady Zainab, salamullahi alayha, and I think we know kind of the historical examples of what Lady Zainab did and how she did it, they're all driven by, I think, a clarity of purpose and a clarity of meaning. You can't make those decisions confidently unless you have this clarity. So for us, and especially for, I mean, this is not a concept that is, that necessarily is for the young or for the old. No, it's for all of us, but I think we want to emphasize it for younger people in their pursuit of meaning and purpose in life, that once you solidify that, at least, and spend time solidifying it, then to commit yourself to it becomes a whole lot easier. And it's easier to control the distractions in life, and for you to put up with the difficulties of that journey. I mean, when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the journey towards righteousness, that's a long and lonely and narrow path to tread, but it's a path that all of us are aspiring in one way or another to journey. So that's the first one, and I want to expand on this a little bit more, but allow me to kind of just move forward, and then I'll transition into a few notes that I have. وَعَرَفَ عَدُوَّهُ فَعَصَى. Same thing. Adu, an enemy, is anything that will disrupt the fulfillment of that meaning and purpose in life. there's so many different things that are kind of vying for our attention and vying for our allegiance and engagement. The institution of marketing, not just like in its material form, but in a larger existential one, is really just to vie for our attention, in that for us to be a consumer of whatever it is that they're selling, and for us to pledge some sort of allegiance to that in the form of consumption and in the form of alignment of values. So yes, I think identification of enemy is really important. But obviously that is determined most clearly when an individual knows where their home is, where their base is, where, again, meaning and purpose is. When those things are not clearly defined, then it's hard to identify what is harmful, and especially if those things are concealed. A lot of times your enemy is not going to be visible or easily identifiable. There's going to be that element of hypocrisy. There's going to be that element of concealment. So to have an eye for that, again, you develop these things after having done that first stage. So once you have those two in order, then you move to number 3. وَعَرَفَ دَارَ إِقَامَتِهِ. Then how you conduct yourself in life. فَأَصْلَحَهَا. And where you kind of where you invest your time and where you invest your resources and where you invest your emotions too is really important. عَرَفَ دَارَ إِقَامَتِهِ. If you know that life is passing, it's ephemeral, it has a distinct purpose, then it becomes a lot easier to deal with, again, the difficulties in life, and also to take pleasure, but appropriately, in the pleasures of life. For us to not exceed those bounds. Once we engage in excess, then we've kind of lost the larger point. Again, وَعَرَفَ سُرْعَةَ رَحِيلَتِهِ فَتَزَوَّدَ لَهَا. And also know with what speed you're progressing. I think one of the things that tradition speaks about, and also traditional advice, elderly advice, is always kind of like take advantage of your youth, because you don't know how fast it's going to pass. And that's how life is. It really is like a blink of an eye. It'll pass. You were a child, and then you were young, and then you were still kind of young, and then now you're aging, and now you're old. That's how fast life passes. So to account for that and to be wary of that is really important too. And that's a learned person, an intelligent person, is one that doesn't get caught off guard by these things, or at least not as much as others. So what I wanted to share in kind of the few minutes that I have left is there's a lot of research that has been done on this very idea of like purpose in life and meaning in life. And I had some very preliminary readings, and I'm sure there are others who are, this is kind of like their line of work and research, but I think this is worthy of our attention, if it hasn't been already, to look at some of the literature that's been produced on living purposeful or meaningful lives for younger people, and then identifying some of the challenges that younger people face, and then beginning to address them. I'm not suggesting that we should take the kind of the fundamental assumptions that may undergird these studies and then adopt them as truisms. No, what I'm saying is there's a lot of really interesting research that's being conducted, and a lot of interesting findings that I think in many respects they also apply to us. They apply to our children, to our families, and we can use this as strategies, or at least information, to help inform the strategies that we have to address some of our problems. So there are a few kind of individuals that I'm going to be drawing some of my notes from, and again, these are not approval of their personality or even their findings, but I think they're worthy of interest. One is a scholar by the name of William Damon. He's a professor at Stanford, and he's one of the kind of leading researchers on the development of purpose in life. And he has a really kind of famous book called The Path to Purpose, helping our children find their calling in life. This is published about 12 years ago, to 2007, 2008, I think. And there he speaks about this notion of purpose and really why something like this is really important. I have a clip that I want to share. I don't know. I know this is being live streamed and maybe even recorded, but again, I think it's helpful just for us to watch this clip real quick, if that's okay. I think I have. Do I have? Yeah. Okay. It looks like I have some permissions. All right. Let's see if we can watch this. Play. Security alert. Uh-oh. Hold on. For whatever reason, it's not playing this. Save media, save media. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna find the clip so I can play it for you. I'm not gonna do that, recite 5 salawats so I can do it, but you're welcome to recite salawat in your own time. While I find this clip. Okay, here we go.
Well, I'll tell you what surprised me in my research when we started doing.
Okay, there we go.
Well, I'll tell you what surprised me in my research when we started doing work with adolescents, which is roughly the age range of 12 to 20, 12 to 25, and I expected that young people would gradually develop a sense of purpose during that whole period of time, because most things that you look at that period of time improve, they increase, kids become more capable of everything from math to social relationships. And one of the interesting things that we found was that purpose is such a late developing capacity that we didn't see very much movement between the ages of 12 and 22. The 12-year-olds that had purpose, and there were some, kept it going. The ones that didn't make much progress. And it was really in the age range of 22 to 30 that we finally started seeing some movement, and in the larger population, in the majority of people. About 1 in 5 young people by the age of 12 had already found a sense of direction in life, a purpose. But that wasn't any different than at age 22. So it gave me a lot of respect for the capacity of developing purpose and how complicated it is and challenging, especially maybe in our time when there are so many distractions and choices to make in life, that the majority of young people just take a long time to sort it out.
All right, thank you, William Damon. And I'm not sure if you all could actually see the clip because my video is pinned, but I'm going to assume that you at least heard it. And if you could see it, great too. So I think one of the central points that Damon is making in this idea of purpose is that for many younger people, they don't develop this thing naturally as they should, like other things that we expect. But also that it's very important, I think, in their success. And many children have challenges cultivating a sense of purpose. So why purpose is important, I think that goes without saying, that cultivating a sense of purpose gives younger people, kids, adults alike, a reason to try hard, right? His research tells us that it gives them a passion about which to learn. It gives them a reason to endure both the good and the bad. Again, like we said, perseverance. He says, just like working a meaningful job versus a meaningless one, students tend to excel when they're working towards a goal and feel that goal to have some meaning. So think about not just in the context of education. For many parents, we tend to circumscribe what's important to just educational endeavors. No, think about larger life. Living a meaningful and purposeful life and trying hard is a lot different from a person who's confused or it's unclear or they're distracted. Their performance is obviously going to be impacted too. So in trying to answer the question of how we can help younger people find purpose, this is what the suggestions are. He said there are some answers that are obvious, right? Being present for your kids, being there for your kids. And again, I sympathize. And I'm slowly starting to empathize. There's so much that we have to do to make it in life that we're not even afforded time with our children. It's like most of us, I think, don't work 50 hours or 60 hours or 2 jobs or 3 jobs or whatever because we're so in love with the work that we do. It's because we rationalize and say, well, this allows me to provide better opportunities for my family, so I do it because of that. And a lot of times what that means, ironically, is that we don't spend enough time with our children. So spending time with kids, with our children, listening to them when they talk, playing in a proactive role in exposing them to good ideas, supporting them even though you may not agree with your children. These are the kind of the easy things. The less obvious answers that Damon and other researchers tell us is that it's really important to share as adults or even as peers, friends, mentors, whatever, sharing with your children why you do what you do. So this question right here of عرف ربه فأطاعه وعرف the riwayah says وعرف عدوه فعصاه. Share this with your children. Like, what is it that you find meaningful and purposeful in life? How are you living your life to that end? What are the strategies that you've employed? What are the life plans that you've made to serve that end? I know your kids may be younger, they may not appreciate some of what you're saying, but at least share with them so they can also understand your approach to life, because younger people are impressionable. A lot of times they learn things by seeing others and kind of like adopting what it is that they're doing or mirroring what it is that they're doing. So if you feel like you have at least some answers, and I know many children do, and they're frustrated because they're not able to communicate them effectively to their children, sometimes that's sharing what's going on in our life. And again, you decide what is appropriate and inappropriate, but sharing that, I think, really goes a long way. And this research is telling us too. Exposing your children to outside influences. As they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It really does. I know many parents want to do their kids right by protecting them from negative influences. Fine. But at least look for support for people that you think share your worldview, that share your purpose in life, share that meaning in life. That's what the sense of this idea of community means. It's like-minded people, but also people that I'd like to think that have similar or the same like meaning in life. They find the same meaning in life or meaning in the same things, and they're driven by the same things. So having positive influences, outside influences, is really, really important in helping cultivate the sense of purpose. If one person is doing something, okay, if 2 people, if 10 people, if 100 people, if you're surrounded by a community of people that they're all aspiring towards the same things, imagine how powerful that is for a younger person. That should be, by the way, just hint, one of the functions of masjid. It's supposed to cultivate that sense of purpose and meaning. That's a discussion for another time. Okay, helping your children resolve their problems by talking your ideas through them Socratically, rather than solving their problems. Don't be a helicopter parent. Don't solve your kids' problems for them. Help them solve their own problems, and let them know the importance of persistence. So there are a lot of other like advice and kind of like direction that that this research tells us. I think it's really important. I'll just list them, I think. And what I'll do is I'll share 2 or 3 of kind of the suggestions that they have, and I'll end because I know we're coming up on the end of time. But so one of the things that they say is, again, as I mentioned, so the parent has to understand what their role is. And the role of the parent is not identification of purpose for the child. You can't choose your child's personality and you can't choose your child's purpose in life. But a parent can introduce options. The parent can fan the flames, so to speak. The parent can be a follower. The parent can help the child formulate realistic plans and how they can pursue them. The parents can support the choices that the child has made within reason. These are all ways that you can align yourself as an ally and as a supporter. You're not going to be able to do it for them. Even the Quran is clear to the Prophet. You can't make anyone believe if they don't want to. There's nothing that you can do. You know, it's out of your control. The agency doesn't belong to you. So that's number 1. Number 2, again, I mentioned and they mentioned, conveying the meaning that you get from your work. That's really powerful. What gives you pride in what you're doing? What makes you feel good about not just your job, but what you're aspiring towards in life? This may be different from person to person. I'm not saying everyone has to live the same life, but given your life circumstances, convey to your children what those things are that you're aspiring towards. Your parents will, your children, I think, will appreciate that. And in one way or another, at some point, they will show that appreciation. Introducing them to mentors. Mentorship is such an important, I think, untapped market for many Muslim communities. So that's something that requires its own conversation or many conversations. But please explore that idea if you haven't already, individually and collectively. Mentorship. One of the other things that they say is to encourage an entrepreneurial attitude. Really what that means is that encouraging them to have a spirit of being a go-getter, pretty much. Help them to develop abilities to set clear goals, to make realistic plans, for them to have that optimistic attitude, for them to be persistent in the face of obstacles and difficulty, and an appetite, they say, even for risk, not like doing something unreasonable, irrational, but understand that not everything can be done in full confidence of a positive result. There's always inherently some risk involved. Embracing that risk, and being resilient in the face of failure. Yeah. So there's a lot more that can be said here. Again, as I mentioned, my objective tonight was just to kind of maybe broach the subject and direct our attention to maybe having some of these conversations in these forums, and then drawing on people that, again, a diversity of life experiences, but also I think that sends the message of unity of purpose. You know, in school they used to have things like career days. Those are good things. I think it's that has its own, I think, merits. And mentorship for career of your children is really powerful. But having like a career day of sorts for people's like meaning in life and purpose in life, I think that can also be a very powerful institution. Again, I don't know how to work out the details, the complexities of what you can share, what you can't share, walking that tightrope of living a private life, but also sharing with others so they learn. I'll leave that to people who are more qualified, but I think that can really be a powerful way of inspiring younger people to find their purpose, and for that purpose and meaning to be inspired by the Quran and the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. That's what we want, and that's why we keep doing these programs. If you ask any older person, they've heard these things time after time after time, and they can probably do a better job of presenting them than most of the speakers. But they say it's for my children. I'm here for my kids. I'm here for, for their kids. So if that's the objective, then maybe we can also think about complementary ways of achieving that. So I'll end here, and I ask by the right of this night, this Thursday night, Eve of Friday, and the commemoration of a unique individual, someone who is, again, like I said, is holds the secrets of her father and really belongs to the rich kind of repository of the teachings of the messenger. We ask that Allah bless us, that we strengthen our connection to this family, our reverence for them, our learning from them, and that we may, inshallah, resemble their teachings, their actions, and be model Muslimin, mu'mineen, that we may be truly in servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we may also enjoy their shafa'ah in this life and in the hereafter, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Congratulations on the birthday of Lady Zainab, salamullah alayha. باز به بیت مصطفی بتول دیگر آمده رسول را دوباره کوثر آمده بتول را یگان دختر آمده. حسین را خجسته خواهر آمده. مرا چراغ انجم است این، دختر اول علی بتول دوم است این. کوثر نبی آیه رحمت آمده. دختر نبی مادر خلقت آمده. زهره علی اختر اسمت آمده. شمسه حیا یا مه عفت آمده. آینه محمدی طلعت دلربای او، در او خلاصه می شود حسین و کربلای او. ای شرف بلند خون هماره از پیام تو، وی که گرفته آبرو شهادت از قیام تو. زنده کنار قتلگه به صبر تو امام تو، نطق تو در سکوت تو، تیغ تو در نیام تو. تو در قیام کربلا قیامت آفریده ای، تو از دم پیامبری امامت آفریده ای. تو زیب دامن نبی، تو زین امی و ابی، تو زینبی تو زینبی تو زینبی تو زینبی. تو زیب دامن نبی، تو زین امی و ابی، تو زینبی تو زینبی تو زینبی تو زینبی. نثار قدوم با برکت حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها. صلی علی محمد و آل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء، وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء، وخضع لها كل شيء، وذل لها كل شيء، وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء، وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء، وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء، وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء، وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء، وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء، وبعلمك الذي يحاط بكل شيء، وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس، يا نور يا قدوس، يا نور يا قدوس، يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك، وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك، وأن توزعني شكرك، وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع، أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا، وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته، وأظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم أظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك، ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا، ولا لقبائحي ساترا، ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي، ظلمت نفسي، ظلمت نفسي.
وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته، وكم من فاضح من البلايا غلته، وكم من عثار وغيته، وكم من مكروه دفعته، وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم أعظم بلائي وافرط بي سوء حالي، وقصرت بي أعمالي، وقعدت بي أغلالي، وحبسني عن نفعي بعد أملي، وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فاسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تعجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وساعتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك، أسأله كشف الضر والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحتنس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك الغضب، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك، فلا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيهم قضاءك، والزمني حكمك وبلاؤك، وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مغرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري خير قبولك عذري وادخالك إياي في سعة رحمتك اللهم تقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وصالح برك بي يا إلهي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ذبيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته وليت شعني يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا على قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر رحوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنة ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب يا كريم يا رب
وأنت تعلم ضعفي قليلا من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثوب يسير بغى قصير مدته فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الفقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها أضج وأبكي لعلي من العذاب وشدته أملة للبلاء ومدته فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع دارك وجمعت بيني وبين الملائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فابني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وابني صبرت على غر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي يفوت فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لن تركتني ناطقا لأذجن إليك بين ضجيج جلامي ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا أميم قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفأنت راك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وضاغت عن عذابها بمعصيته وهبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤملا لرحمتك ويناديك من لسان أهل تمهيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من علمه أم كيف تعلم النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يهرب لئيمها وأنت تسمع صوتا وترى مقاما أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرا وأنت تعلم ضعفه أم كيف يتغلغل بين أطباقهم وأنت تعلم سرهم أم كيف تزجر زبانيتهم وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في يتوي منهم فتتركه فيهم هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت من الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاوديك وقضيت به من إخلاد ما نبيك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مغرا ولا مغاما لكنك تقدس اسمك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المالدين وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتدولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من علي أجريتها. أنت بلي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل غميم أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته وأعلنته أخفيته وأبرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جباري وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك ما أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر لي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفر أو خطأ تستر يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رزقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفوقتي يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معموما وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأمرادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليهم وابلي يا من علي شكوت أحوالي يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب يا رب قم على خدمتك جباري واشدد على العزيمة جباري وابلي الجد في خشيتك والتمام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في البارزين وأشتاق إلى غربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك ذنوب المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين واجتمع في جبارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارد ومن كادني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك واغربهم منزلة منك وأخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجدني بجودك واعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجب وقلبي بحبك متيم ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأغني أثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وضمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا رب نسبت وجهي وإليك يا رب مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته قناة ارحم من رأس مال الرجاء وسلام البكاء يا سابق النعم يا دافع النغم يا نور المستوشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسول والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد زيارة آقا أبا عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثار والوتر الموت أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين فلعن الله أمة قتلت ولعن الله أمة ظلمت ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت منه يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلام الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها واشهد أنك من دائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين واشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي واشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبأيامكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سير وأمري لأمركم متبع صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع السماوات والأرض فلعن الله أمة أسرجت والجمال وتهيأت لقتالك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أسأل الله بالشأن الذي لك عنده وبالمحل الذي لك لدي أن يصلي على محمد وآل محمد وأن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, there are some community members that are suffering from different illness, including COVID, and let's ask Allah by the name of Lady Zainab Salamullah alayha to give full recovery and shafa to all those people who are ill and they are suffering from this situation, this illness, and all over the world, all the Muslims, including especially Shias and especially the people from our community, inshallah. Let's keep all of them in your du'as. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء رحم الله من يقرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات